Property guys, welcome. Ken, Jeremy, Daina, so glad to have you here. So I wanted to start this off, and I was trying to figure out, like, how do you introduce something of this nature? And, you know, our podcast having that here's how theme, you know, you always think of somebody coming into a hardware store asking, you know, that know-it-all DIY dad-looking fella, and he's got all the answers, but you think, like, he has the answer. And so what I mean by that is we often think of, like, the solution to a problem just being one, and having you guys on today brings up a really great story about sometimes it's not just one solution to every problem. And I think when we look at the real estate industry, you know, I've purchased a home, and I think many viewers, we have viewers from all ages, but a lot of people, probably the majority, and maybe you'll tell me differently, they've gone through the process of purchasing a home through a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And what's really awesome is to see that, you know, when you hear about a company like yours, you're disruptive, and you've decided, you know what, like, there's maybe a better way of doing things, right? Maybe the real estate agent isn't the only way of doing it. And I'm sure there's probably this tipping point where you kind of got into it and you're like, you know, this is why we want to do it. I'm so excited to hear all about that. So let's start off right off the bat. Like, tell me where the idea started and you believe, like, you know what, there's maybe like a better way of buying or selling homes.
Well, it's a great, I guess, opening question, and I'll share the kind of the founder story. Jamie and I kind of kicked off. So 1998, a long time ago, that's when the idea came to our heads, and basically it's back to that DIY kind of dad you're talking about, the know-it-all, and we wanted to, I guess at that time, organize all these for sale by owners, which are a DIY of real estate. Right. So that's what we want to do. So JD and I were full-time business students at Crandall University here in Moncton, New Brunswick. And on our way to school every single day, we kept seeing those orange and red for sale by owner signs that you would buy at Home Hardware. Right? The guy, he would buy the sign, he'd put it on the front lawn, he'd try to sell his house, right? And not owning houses before at that time, I was living in a basement apartment. I think you were probably still living at home.
I was at home with my parents. I was 18 years old. I did have a nice head of hair back then.
Yeah, exactly. So
I wasn't born yet.
Daina wasn't born yet, exactly. So back then we're like, you know what? Why are these people trying to sell their homes privately? Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like you, I thought, why don't you just call, you know, a Remax or Century 21 or a local guy, and because real estate's free, just call the guy and he sells it and he charges you a little commission to sell the house. So we didn't understand at that time why people were trying to sell privately. So that's how it was kicked off, and it was a huge success in Moncton overnight.
Now, obviously there's challenges trying to kind of like disrupt a system that's in place that seems really traditional. Like, what are the challenges that you run into? Like, obviously going against the grain.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest challenge is just consumer education and awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
People don't know. Like, a lot of people for years think it was illegal to use property guys. Like, I have to use a realtor.
They thought
like,
you had to have a real estate agent, and really you just needed a lawyer to do the closing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they didn't know, like, that people don't realize that when they want to go buy a house, that they don't need a realtor to bring them to show that house. That house is go yourself, and you probably could save a couple points in commission, right? So that's one of the biggest things, and obviously disrupting a multi-billion-dollar industry like real estate. The traditional agents aren't going to say a whole lot of great things.
You're not getting a lot of
well.
Christmas cards from real estate agents.
No. I've got some friends in real estate now. Back then, I didn't have very many. Put it that way. So,
No Christmas cards.
No, exactly. So,
Well, people thought there was only one way to do it because that's the way it's been done for 100 years.
And that's what you hear
And
a
the
lot.
other,
And there was a lot of fear mongering around that as well. Like, they made you afraid to
Right.
do the transaction. Yeah.
look at the commercials on TV today, right? They scare you into, oh, you have to use an agent. They're the only people that can protect you. But that's fine. But also the stigma at the time too that we had to overcome was, you know, are people going to take me serious
Fair.
if I put my for sale by owner sign on a front lawn, right?
Right.
Think of our first customer, right? It wasn't till he sold his house that a more legit sign went on a front lawn.
Okay.
Versus his sign with his phone number.
Do you want to tell them what your first signs were?
yeah.
Well, it's kind of appropriate given the
for sure.
given the recent election, but
before you go out, so we started on a shoestring. So
Okay.
they've talked about we were students when we started
Yeah.
this thing. We
Yeah.
had $100 to kick our company off.
Okay.
That's how we started PropertyGuys.com. JD brought the $100. I had the idea. We combined the two
For his
together.
mother's van.
Exactly, and we bought a domain name
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
registered a business, and
Yeah.
there was our $100. So we had a zero budget. So when we actually had our first customer say, "Yes, I'd like to list my house," well, we need signs.
Okay.
And we couldn't afford the nice ones at Home Hardware, so JD got on the phone and share
Well,
the story.
it was the Tuesday morning, literally after the local election in the
Okay.
province, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm 18 years old. I didn't know much about the signs on the front lawn. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, hey, that sign there with the candidate that just won last night or is on that there in that street corner, and that's the same material that's on the fronts of the lawns.
Yep.
Coroplast material.
You didn't recycle it.
So I called
That's
up the
amazing.
election
Yeah.
office Tuesday morning and said, hey, what do you do with all your signs? The election's over. What happens? If I can go pick them all up, can I have that material? Can I have those signs? And they said, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So
That's amazing.
we got a van,
Yeah.
and we drove around town, picked up a few signs. They were printed single-sided, so candidate party on one side, blank on the other. This is great. So we put property for sale by owner with a
Just a
spot to
sticker
put
up.
a phone number in, and on the bottom we made a white and red rider that said propertyguys.com, so they would know to go to the website. So
Wow.
So recycle election signs. So we saw Claudette Bradshaw on the back, Property Guys on the front.
There
So
you
they're
go.
really good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's genius though, right?
Well,
Because-
it's just basically, not taking, I guess, any barrier to say,
Right.
oh, we have to wait and
Yeah.
save up. It's kind of just do it mentality, right?
and
So,
I think that's what a lot of we've had a few entrepreneurs come on, and what I'm feeling is the commonality with people that have these kind of rags to riches stories or the nothing to something is they really didn't see an obstacle get in the way, because really the only obstacles you create are the ones that you put in your own mind, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people they try to find reasons not to do it when in reality there's no reason not to, right? So that's now what was so you're starting off early. This is late 90s, early 2000s. What was really the turning point when things shifted into gear and it turned from a college idea into something that was actually pretty legit?
It was, yeah. It was about our third year, so we were about to graduate.
Okay.
We both went to university initially for different reasons. I was going to go back get my law degree. Jay was getting into finance, but this PropertyGuys.com thing started gaining momentum after about 2 or 3 years locally. And we were doing fairly well, all private sale, all for sale by owner. Then one day in our office, we had a little office on Main Street above a Chinese food restaurant. Little small office, not even about the size of this space right here. And it was a Saturday afternoon, and I'll let Jay tell the story, but it was a pretty interesting one. We had a bunch of customers and that, so we were taking calls and supporting that. And the phone rang, and it was someone from Prince Edward Island that called. I remember his name was Peter Keene, right? Peter Keene. And he says, hey, I was just flying from Halifax to Toronto. In the back of the plane, they had a magazine called Atlantic Business Magazine, and there was an article on there about you guys.
Nice.
So there was we got a lot of media early on
Yep.
because business students selling houses on the internet is a big thing, this .com thing, right?
Yeah.
And he said he read the article, and he says, I'm very interested. Do you guys sell franchises?
Okay.
And I said, well, yes, of course we sell franchises. So then I hung up the phone, booked a meeting with him next Saturday, and I looked at Jay and said, Jay, what's a franchise?
I remember
They didn't even have Google to look it up.
I remember that day. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. I'm on one side at my desk, Ken's at the other side, and you can hear the conversation going. I'm not the one on the phone, but you know exactly what's being said. And he says, do you franchise? And Ken says, yeah, we franchise. I'm thinking, oh man.
That sounds like a big word.
Sounds cool. Let's go figure it out, right? So we had school during the week, so we went the next Saturday. We're going to drive over to Summerside to see Peter, who had wanted to buy the franchise. So we were driving over, right? We cranked the AC/DC, music's blaring. We're thinking this is going to be, you know,
Their pump up song.
a great day. We're going to
Bring
go.
him a big check.
We're going to go. We're going to sell a franchise, and you know, we're going to put several grand in our pocket, and we're going to go to the pub after, and this is going to be a great day.
Yeah.
So we go there, and this is after we had 2 or 3 years of solid success here in town locally.
Yeah.
So we get there, we knock on his door. We figure we would go in, you know, spend an hour with him, talk shop, and then leave with a check. Well, we were there for about 6 hours.
Okay.
And he started asking us questions like, how do I put a listing on your website?
Okay.
And our response was, well, do you know how to HTML program?
Yeah. Teach yourself code. Look at your
Can
book.
you code? He's like, no, what do you mean program? I can't code. Okay, so next question. Do you have an operations manual? We're like, what do you mean operations manual?
up
Everything
here.
we know is up here.
Sticky note.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I assume buying a franchise, it's laid out for me. Here's what you have to do. Get up in the morning, do this, do that. Here's how to get business. Here's how to support business.
Yeah.
Like, no, we just do it, right? It's all up in our heads. So,
Can I see your franchise agreement?
Right.
No, we don't have one of those yet.
do you have a disclosure document? Where are your financials? Like, what am I getting at? Like, how long are the agreements?
Yeah.
What do I need to incorporate? All these questions, right? That
Very good questions.
oh,
but,
they were the perfect questions.
yeah.
Regardless to say, we didn't leave with a check.
Fair.
We did not have AC/DC cranked on the way home
Exactly.
Silent.
across the
Silent.
bridge.
Yeah.
But it really, that day and that conversation, as hard as it was, because we're the types of guys, especially
Game
Ken,
changer.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
It's like he says yes to everything, and then we figure it out later.
Yeah.
It really gave us a little bit of humility to say, hey, look, we got to go back. We know we want to expand bigger than Moncton.
Right.
Maybe franchising is the legit way to do it. Let's
Yeah.
take the right steps
Yeah.
and research it.
And that was the tipping point. Like you said, that was the
Right.
decision. Like, okay, we've got two paths to take. Either this was a really fun ride for the
Yeah.
last 3 years, and let's move on. I'm gonna go get my law degree. You do what you need to do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a nice little thing. It helped pay for university.
Yeah.
Or we're going to the next level, and we decided that day we're gonna go to the next level. So we
Yeah,
joined the
yeah.
Canadian Franchise Association. We hired a franchise lawyer. We divided our company into two, so we separated the Moncton location and we
Okay.
created a franchise division
Okay,
that
okay,
focused
okay.
just on franchising. We got disclosure documents.
Yeah.
We brought in a technician who can basically build a back end so they can upload their own listings. Like before that,
okay, right.
I was doing all the listings, so I was doing the HTML code. This is dial-up days. Like,
Right,
so I tell
right.
my wife, get off the phone, I got a listing to put up there. Like, get me going on there for like 6 hours. We would take photos. Like we didn't even have a budget for a digital camera when we started, so he would
Okay.
go and take 35 millimeter film, run down to Shoppers,
Develop it.
develop it, bring
Develop
it back to me. I had a flatbed scanner and I would scan these images.
I'd take
make
2
it-
rolls of film, pick out the best 12 photos,
Yep.
give them to
Oh my
Ken.
God.
Yeah, like it literally would take us like 6-8 hours
That's
to put up a
commitment.
listing.
That's commitment.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it was
Right.
working, right? It's just volume.
Today,
that
a
up,
listing goes up in under 10 minutes on our
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
4 days.
If you can send an email, you can.
days.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Pretty much, right? 24-hour film. Oh, it didn't turn out. Got to go
Yeah.
back, take another, you know.
And I guess like you were saying earlier with someone would just put one picture up and then, in hopes to do it. Also, you got to look at it. The logistics behind actually putting a listing up and putting a lot of effort into it
Yeah.
in the late 90s
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
is
Totally
it's an
different than
undertaking,
today.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we were the first real estate company to ever show interior photos
no
of a
way.
home.
That's
Because the
cool.
idea was it wasn't, just to attract customers for the real estate agent to buy other homes. It was for the home seller to showcase and sell their own home.
Right.
So we wanted to show as much as possible.
Yeah,
It was really cool because one thing we noticed early on was even though our listing and our customers, our home sellers weren't getting like hundreds of showings, they were
Yep.
getting 4 or 5, but they were getting offers with all 4 or 5 because most people were viewing it online
Already
beforehand.
done. Yeah,
so
yeah,
they were
yeah.
just going in to validate that, whereas
Yeah.
other people, if they were listed with a traditional agent, I got to see the inside, they do a walkthrough and they'd be going through basically 20, 30, 40 people before
Right.
they got the offers, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, our first customer in Riverview,
yeah.
his name was Brad, and we went over and we, our first paying customer, I should say,
Yeah.
right, gave us a couple $100 at the time, which we thought was fantastic in '98.
Yep.
But that phone call that we talked about, how we got into franchising,
Yep.
that phone call that came in,
Very similar. Yeah?
very similar to that in the early days. You know, 2 weeks later, after we list this guy's house, caller ID, Brad Watts, we're thinking, shit, this guy's going to want his money back.
Right. Okay.
Like, why is he calling?
Why is he calling?
They already spent it on
right.
beer.
Yeah, true. Right?
Ken answers the phone.
Yeah, and he asked for a sold sign. I'm like, shit, we don't have any of those, but I'll see what I can do, right?
Yeah.
So that was it. But for us, it was validation because the way it sold, it wasn't necessarily that it sold within 2 weeks, which was really cool, but he had a for sale by owner sign on his lawn for months before that, no offers whatsoever.
Right.
He put a propertyguys.com sign on the lawn.
Yeah.
His neighbor across the street called his kid in Newfoundland and said, go to propertyguys.com and punch in his ID number. And we had all these interior photos. He called the guy the next day, made an offer without ever physically visiting the house.
Crazy,
We said,
eh?
we're going to something there. This is how this is going to work. People are going to be able to buy
.com,
and
baby.
sell,
Right,
right?
there you go.
Yeah.
There
And
you
we
go.
just basically try to avoid that middleman of an agent trying to bring a buyer and seller connecting together. So that's what it was.
Now, obviously, like, this is way before the examples I'm going to say, but like, have you ever considered yourself kind of like that, the same thing as Airbnb in the hotel industry
100%.
and like,
100%.
the Uber to the cab industry?
That is
Exactly.
exactly
Yeah. Yeah.
what they were.
But Dana's big into the franchise development. That's kind of what we did. Like we are like the Uber of real estate.
Yeah.
We've used that term before. So
Does it still come with a lot, like in the day today, and maybe Dana, you'd be the best to answer this, is does it still come with a lot of skepticism, or have you jumped over those hurdles now? Is it more?
Yeah, not anymore. They've been
Yeah.
around for 26 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I mean, still we have to, explain things sometimes, but being the disruptive model like Airbnb and Uber, people are really attracted to that.
Yeah, for sure.
And they kind of call us like the Robin Hood of real estate. So they want to know, how do you do this? And they did it way early on. So it does come with a little bit of skepticism, but you can actually see the light bulb turn on. Like as soon as you explain how it works and you tell them that it's flat fee and
So explain to me how you've kind of created this power shift from, like, we always think like the real estate agent holds all the power. You're putting it back into the buyers and sellers. Like, how does that work?
just transparency.
Okay.
Basically transparency, disclosing everything, interior photos, description, asking price, negotiating, using technology to allow that, to not having a middleman hold all the secrets and stuff. So yeah, that's the biggest way. That's how we've disrupted. And the other part is we charge a flat fee based on service.
Okay.
It's not based on the value of your home.
Right.
So if you want us to show the house, we can do that. Here's what it costs to show the house. You want professional photography? We can do that. Here's what it costs for professional photography.
So kind of a la carte system, right?
Pretty much,
Very
exactly.
much.
It's all about choice control. That's kind of the words we use. So
Okay.
you pick and you get to control it, and you pick how much you want to pay and or how little you want to pay. Really.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
one customer could be a house flipper. Maybe they've done this 50 times before.
Okay.
Right.
They're totally comfortable showing their own home. They have somebody to do the closing for them. All they really want is the listing live and the sign and the access for the people to see it. They're going to handle everything else themselves. So why ding them 5% for that when they didn't need all the other goodies? They just needed the sign and the listing. Somebody else might require a lot more hand holding, or maybe it's a property that requires more marketing, like they want, social media strategy, extra signage, drone photography, all the bells and whistles. So
And those
we
are
can,
all paid services, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All a la carte, like you said. So some people just want to buy, so they want us to help represent them on the buy side, and we can do that for you as well.
So when you represent them on the buy side, is that a real, like,
That's
does
a
it
licensed service.
operate-
So we
Okay.
about 7 years ago created a sister company that's actually licensed, has a brokerage, and we
Okay.
can manage that. So we're a hybrid model today. It's not
Oh,
just
that's cool.
strictly for sale by owner. We do have the traditional side of things as well. But we disrupted that. Even not we're
that's
not
different too.
traditional because we don't
Yeah.
charge a commission or anything like that. We charge a flat fee for our services.
Yeah, early on, right, the first, 15 years or so, it was just purely private sale, for sale by owner,
Yep.
and whatnot. 2014,
2012,
12?
2013 when we actually had
2012,
access to realtor.ca.
2013.
Okay.
Your postings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the regulations got loosened, if you will,
Okay.
and a private seller could now list their home on the MLS through a mere posting, so they could get that exposure on realtor.ca as well, right? So that's up until then, we were kind of our own thing. If you wanted to sell your house or buy a property in this country, you'd go on propertyguys.com or you go on realtor.ca.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It
since
gave our
then-
customers, when that became available, it gave our customers the choice to be on propertyguys.com and have exposure on realtor.ca.
Okay.
We had to have a broker partner because our franchisees weren't licensed real estate agents. We
Gotcha,
couldn't
gotcha.
trade in real estate. So we had a broker partner to post the mere posting so that it was just really another
Yep.
access point, more
Right.
exposure.
More exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, yeah, that's really crazy to see that it developed into something like that. I'm wondering, like, where do you see some of the biggest success stories? Is it those like really, someone that goes from, hey, I didn't really work out with a real estate agent, I tried on Property Guys, went better, or is it like, the house flippers, the newcomers? Like, where do you see the most success or the cool success stories?
I mean, we're no different than traditional. So
Yeah.
basically, the most successful customers we have who use propertyguys.com are the ones that are priced right.
Okay.
It dictates the market. So we said no matter what market you're in, no matter where you are in the country, I can sell any house within 24 hours if it's priced right.
Yeah.
So it's the customers who have that real good connection between what they want for their house and what they can actually get and and they can fix that. Like, those are the ones that we try to coach, and that's kind of what we do when we go with our franchisees. That is their biggest, I wouldn't say challenge, but their biggest needs analysis question they got to pull out of a customer is what do you want for your house?
True.
Here's the market. Here's fair market analysis, and what price point do you want to go in there to maximize your initial investment, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's always the challenge.
Okay.
So you will be as successful as the market will dictate.
Right.
And sometimes it's a really tough discussion with someone. Like, I know, like right now in Ontario, everyone's houses are dropping in value.
Okay,
So
yeah.
That's true.
someone bought a condo during COVID, paid 1.6 million for it. Now it's worth $1 million, and it's
Right.
less than 2 years later. Like,
Right.
it's a tough conversation, right? They're saying, "What do you mean? I bought this for 1.6 2 years ago. Used to be in Toronto. I buy it for $1 million and worth $2 million within the next year,
yeah.
right?" So those
Right.
are the toughest.
I think
things.
for me, the biggest success stories are the people that went the traditional route. You see their house go up, and then it's not selling, they're not getting a lot of showings. The agent comes back and says, well, you're going to need to reduce. Because sometimes they'll get that person to list with them because they're like, oh yeah, we can get that much for your house, no
Right,
problem.
right.
They're going to put it up, then they're going to ask them to reduce by 10 or 20 grand.
Yeah.
Well, now they're down, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And property guys can come in, and instead of them reducing again or switching to another agent, if their contract is up, they can try propertyguys.com. They can even reduce further, but because of our flat fee, it's not coming out of their back pocket.
That's true,
So
that's
now
true.
they're priced much more competitively. The house is going to sell.
Yeah.
I used to be a franchisee, so I used to
Okay,
love
yeah,
taking
yeah.
down the traditional signs, putting up the Property Guys lollipop,
Yeah.
and a week later it's sold, and everybody in town was like, oh, that house has been listed for 3 months and reduced
Right,
twice,
right,
and
that's
now
good,
it's
yeah.
sold with Property Guys in a week. Well, that guy didn't lose any more money because he wasn't paying the commission. So he
a
was
lot-
able to reduce by the amount of the realtors. It would have went in the realtor's pocket.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
what a lot of, I guess, home sellers believe is that they don't pay the commission. The buyer pays the commission.
Right.
But the buyer's paying the commission based on your listing and asking price and actual eventually selling price.
Right.
Yeah.
So that selling price is going to be inflated because realtors don't work for free.
Right.
That buyer agent worked his ass off driving people around, showing them 15,
Yeah.
20 houses. He needs to get paid for that,
Yeah.
right? So that price is inflated there. So if you could take out those activities, price it right accordingly,
Yeah.
that's the market it'll play, and then you have that difference that would have went to, say, a buyer agent or a seller agent, right? So those are the ones that.
And you're empowered in doing, like, if you're kind of tech savvy and you go in there and you're like, hey, I can take the pictures. Hey, I actually know a buddy that has a drone. I can do all these things. They can kind of throw everything on
We
there.
have a
my
do-it-yourself
listing.
package, like for that
Right.
guy.
Self-service
Yeah.
listing, yeah.
Yeah.
We'd actually
Yep.
most markets let people use our platform for free.
Right.
If you're that tech savvy guy, you want to put it on property as I go and fill your boots, we're okay with that.
Nice.
Yeah, we're a platform, we're a marketplace, and for us,
Yeah.
inventory is great. And
That was my other
well,
favorite
so-
part too. You said the word empowered,
Yep.
and I always felt like the home seller felt so much more empowered when they had a part of it. Like they got to, be hands-on or maybe take part in the showings or whatever. So yeah.
That's right.
Control.
So now, obviously, going from that moment where you kind of shot yourself in the foot and said, yeah, we could franchise. I'm thinking like fast forward today, franchising opportunities obviously come with a certain undertaking, both from the business perspective, from you guys being like, we have a name, a standard, we want to keep it at that certain height. And obviously by now I hope you have the operations manual and all those things there, you're educating them and all that. But I'm wondering, like, you know, obviously some of the realtors that we've had here in the past on the podcast, what really stood out to me that they said is, you know, some of them have lived here for a long time and they almost see themselves as like this local guide that when people come in, they're able to, you know, if they have questions on which neighborhood should I pick because I have young kids, or, you know, we're really involved in like sports and stuff like that, where are the ones that are close to, you know, the highway so I can get out to Fundy Park, those things there. You know, I'm wondering, like, when you're franchising, you're going in, you know, you're going on a national scale, but you're going in all of these new little locations. How does that change the operating system per se? How do you navigate through how everything might be different in every location?
Yeah, well, one thing we always say is real estate's local.
Right.
So even though we give them exclusive franchise territory, we'll carve an actual physical map and we'll show you, here's your borders of your exclusive franchise territory. You're so right. Our best franchise owners have all those skill sets. They know where the best restaurants are. They know where the rinks are. They know what the schools are. They know all those things, because that's what makes a great realtor. That's what makes a great PropertyGuys.com franchisees, having that local awareness, right? So we would, in part of our franchise agreement, you have to live in your territory. So
we would never be what we are today if the guys had decided to just be a website and a sign. There are other people that have tried that. We know that real estate's hyper-local. We know they want to deal with their person. They just may not want to pay that person so much. So the local franchisee is a member of the community. Their kids play sports together. They know all the areas, and we give them an exclusive franchise territory. So they have the benefit of being like a local owner-operator, which people love, but then this overarching, you know, they're under the whole national brand with a whole network. So it's a huge advantage.
She's so right too. Like you talked about technology and that. Yeah, we have an amazing platform where we're literally open 24/7 around the world. But real estate is so local, and that we know, and one thing we've learned over the last 26 years is that people are not going to entrust their most valuable asset, their home, to just some internet or some website. So it will be one of the last industries that fully go into AI and take care of all the stuff, because when you want to sell your house, you want to look across someone across the table and say, I got you. Don't worry, you're going to have some questions. I'm going to make sure you're protected, and that's what I'm here for. So that's why we think, you know, that's why franchising was so important for us, is to have those humans on the ground in those territories.
And one cool thing, Daina, you can validate this. You were mentioning this to us the other day, that a lot of the franchisees that we attract, they were previous users of the system. They sold their house with PropertyGuys.com, or they knew a close relative, whatever, right? They're very familiar with how it works, and they're a big believer in that, and they want to go out to their communities, and even though they love real estate and have a passion for that, they want to help people save money in their communities too, right? Put money back into things that matter. So
we've had people sell their house in Halifax and they're moving to Calgary, and they're like, I used Property Guys. They can save as much in commission to buy their Property Guys franchise when they move. Like, it's awesome. So they can look up and see if their territory is available.
It's funny because most of our users, first-time home buyers and first-time home sellers, don't use Property Guys. They don't, because they're fearful of, you know, what if I make a mistake and how complicated it is. And then they go through it with a great agent, but at the end of the day, they're like, that wasn't that hard. All Billy did was put a sign on the front lawn, and 4 other agents brought people by. I could do that. So when they call us the second time around, they're more confident in that activity, right? But it seems like almost the first time they do it, they want to make sure they've got that, you know, that traditional back end help.
And two really successful realtors were on, and they were the first ones we came on, and they, you know, brought up a good point. It's like, you know, in Moncton, there are very many real estate agents, almost too many, arguably, whatever. But they were also saying, it's like, you know, when you have your starting point in this career, like it's not going to be easy for those first 6 to 12 months. And the big thing too is that if they're not easy in those first 6 to 12 months, you also have very little experience in actually the sales process and the closing of it. And to your point where it's like, well, when somebody looks back and is like, I bought a house for the first time, and really in hindsight it wasn't that complicated other than kind of tying a few pieces together, getting it done legally, doing this, doing that with the bank or whatever, you almost feel like you're that first real estate agent doing their first sale as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Well, don't hold me to these stats, but I think last year the average agent across the country did less than one transaction.
I heard that too, yeah.
Less than one transaction. So think about that. Our franchisees do that today.
Yeah.
And they do that hundreds of times throughout the year. Wow. So you talk about experience on buying side, a propertyguys.com franchise where you think it's, they're not that experienced. Well, they've done listings and buyers and sellers more than said the average agent has done across the country, right? So again, and people all think, well, you must hate agents. I don't. I have nothing but respect for traditional real estate.
For sure.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
It's very competitive.
Yeah.
But that's the advantage that we have. We can bring people in that want to be in the real estate industry that don't have to compete with their friend at the desk next to them in the same office. Yeah. They are all competing with each other for the same deal. We give an exclusive franchise territory, so they're one of one, not one of many.
Yeah. It's tough too because it's such a relationship business. So, to get your real estate license, you have to get education and write your exam and all stuff. But what's really, I guess, challenging for a traditional agent is like you work your butt off, you do all the marketing, you advertise, you've got through that first year of business, and you finally get a couple checks, and then that listing you got next door is because of someone else's cousin or uncle or Billy, and they do 2 deals a year. It's like, really, like I work my butt off, I'm a professional, I do all this work, but now I lose out to this kid who just got out of school, who got his real estate license and delivering skip the dishes at night, right? That is the problem within the industry, and I think most, I guess, performing agents will tell you that. Yeah. It's a rot within, and there's so many agents, it's just overpopulated, and they just need to have a little better, tighter process.
And they're all offering the same thing.
Yeah.
True.
It doesn't matter which one of them you call or which agency they're from. I can get your house on realtor.ca for 5% or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. They don't really bring anything new or different, and that's where the disruptor part, that's where the Uber part comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot, like, we can't discredit, like, I know you're putting a very transparent message out there, and I think those very good real estate agents, there's a good selection of them, and that's where most of the experience, the expertise
100%,
is held, and that's where most of the sales are.
And that's where all the other agents are marketing off the backs of the hard work of the professional agents, right? So
it's not a very you think about like industries trying to market the same type of product. Like we think like of a Pepsi and a Cola, right? It's like although they're pretty much the same product, they're like a dark fizzy drink. They're very different in the way that they market, and they also compete against each other. But like in something like real estate, it's like they all have signs, they're all wearing a suit, they all do showings. Like a lot of things are very similar.
Their property in the same place. Right?
I love that way you put it. Is like the ones that make a lot of success make the image of the rest of the industry look really good, and they don't get the ownership, like the credit for it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. The challenge too is that because of the way it's structured right now, they can't change their compensation model. They have to get that 5, 6, 7%.
Okay.
It's impossible. There's so many layers at
so many hands in the pot.
So many hands in the pot, right? And that's what's really cool about our system, is that there's really a home office and a franchisee. Okay. There's not 19 layers of managers that need to get paid in every transaction. So there's no way, even if they wanted to restructure their model, especially some of the bigger major brands, it's impossible. They can't change that model because of the infrastructure and the way they're set up right now, right? So,
now you have a tagline that's "We're in your neighborhood." Like, what does that mean to you? Like, is it just kind of a nice marketing buzzword, or you really like, I'd love to hear where that came from.
Which one?
The "We're in your neighborhood."
No, it's not us.
That's not you guys? No. Oh my God.
We've got, that's all right.
Real estate reinvented.
We got real estate reinvented for people who deserve better.
I love that.
That's a really current one. We had one last year. It was a bit of controversy because we hired I guess a marketing expert, came in, did like an uncovery. We called it as a marketing dig, interviewed a bunch of our customers, our franchisees, and basically came up with a tagline saying "Avoid unfair commissions."
Okay.
Okay, which you know what, it's kind of what we do, right?
Yeah,
we don't.
yeah,
We're
fair,
not. We're
fair.
just saying. We're not saying avoid all commissions. It's the unfair one. So you know, define unfair commission. Well, it's that kid who got his license yesterday. He's charging me 7% for $1 million house, right? You know, things like that. Or it's like me paying. You know, Dana paying 3 times more than JD, even though they're neighbors, but her house is worth 3 times more for the exact same service. So, but it really caused an issue with some of our franchise owners who also have husbands or wives who are in the real estate industry and that. And it's kind of, so we kind of redid that purpose name, and we thought, you know, propertyguys.com, reinventing real estate is more aligned to where we're at.
I like that.
And for people who deserve better. So not just home buyers and sellers, our franchisees as well. So
Way better than mine.
I like, we are in your neighborhood.
Hey, that works too, right? We're local, right?
I might write that down, Jenny. That's a great idea.
Now, I guess it's a good segue into this. Like, what do we get wrong about commission? Like, I'm thinking about, like, you know, people are in the traditional sense of how we think about real estate. The commission is because it brings value, and I think, like, maybe we've built this misunderstanding of what the value is, and it's tied to a commission. Like, what do you feel like we're getting wrong with this?
Here's why I never understood commission based on a value of a property. You know, Jay drives a Toyota, I drive a Range Rover. I don't pull up to the pumps and because I'm driving a Range Rover pay different for my gas based on the value of my vehicle.
Right.
So why should Dana, whose house is worth 3 times more than my house, pay 3 times more for the exact same service? So that's why we believe the commission part of that is broken. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? I get it because of the multiple layers they've created, but
and I hate to say it, but every real estate agent that, like, they're not one-to-one, they're not equal, they don't do the exact same thing. Right? We talked about it's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the great agents
are doing 80%.
Are doing
right.
Exactly. But that service, that experience, that whatever they do that they're really, really good at is different than the guy that got licensed in the course last weekend and is doing his first deal because he's calling his buddy, how do I write up the paperwork? How do I do the purchase and sale? What does this mean? He doesn't know until you do it 100 times. But like you say, you only do 1 or 2 a year. You're not an expert in the field, right? So if the service was mirrored, par to par, great.
Or not even the service is basically what they deliver. Like Kyle Johnson, great realtor. Okay, he deserves his commission. But why should Dana, who gets her license next week, get to charge the exact same price?
True.
And make the same on a transaction who has zero real estate experience versus the guy who's done hundreds of transactions and negotiate a really good deal for me? Like, how is that fair? And that's their model. It's the way it's set up, right? So.
And the thing is, there's only so many places for someone to advertise your house for sale. So they're going to put it on realtor.ca. You're going to get a sign on your lawn. They might slap it on Facebook. Maybe they'll add it to Kijiji. Like, okay, we can do that too for a fraction of the cost.
I find too where I've, like, you know, through going through threads and stuff like that, I do a lot of stuff on or a lot of browsing on Reddit, and you know, with COVID and the ramping up of, like, these houses going on the market, and you don't even have the time to breathe and they're already sold, and a few times I've seen, like, a lot of people started speculating where there's, like, collusion now with, like, you know, the way that people are almost like artificially rising the prices because they're saying, well, there's 6 or 7 offers on it, and, you know, they call the other buddy and they're like, oh, we can really fleece these people, and like,
I don't buy a whole lot of that. I think that's probably just hearsay. I honestly don't. I mean, there's a code of ethics that realtors have to carry, and, you know, and no matter what you do for offers, I think that's just kind of maybe some people on Reddit creating stuff up. Like, but you're right. I mean, right now our biggest competitor isn't traditional real estate; it's Facebook Marketplace. You know what I mean? Like, like when the market's so hot, like, you just put it on Facebook Market, you're getting multiple offers, and so that's our biggest competitors in a lot of local markets, right? Like Kijiji was in Marketplace, so especially attracting the FSBOs, right?
Did Kijiji start before you or after?
after us.
After.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So how do you so as someone that's coming in the first time getting their feet wet in selling a property on it, how do you build that trust and confidence in the system? Like, is it all laid out right when you get in? Is it super
So our
easy?
franchisees, we do what's called an information appointment. So
Okay.
if you would book a one-on-one meeting with one of our local franchisees or one of their reps, we would go in there and they do basically a needs analysis.
Yeah.
So they'll ask you a bunch of questions, and then part of that needs analysis, we do solution selling. So we'll go in there and we'll talk about our track record. So if one of your concerns is this going to work?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go over the reasons why it's going to work and why
Okay.
it couldn't work, you
Okay.
know? So obviously pricing will be a big one we'll discuss with
Right.
that. So we kind of try to build that experience. And what's really cool about our system is whether you're a new franchisee who just started last year,
Yeah.
or you're one that's been around for some of them 19 years with
Okay.
us,
Okay.
you got the collective experience of PropertyGuys.com, which has been around since 1998, right?
Yeah.
And we have that coast-to-coast coverage. So it adds that credibility, almost instant credibility to someone who's been through our training session and all those fun things. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of infrastructure in the back end too, right? We operate a 24/7 or a 7-day-a-week contact center where,
Okay.
hey, if every phone number on the front lawn that you see, it comes into our team here in Moncton,
okay,
and
okay. Yeah.
if you want to make changes, book appointments, do whatever you need to do as a user or a potential user, we have your back, and let alone we
24/7.
support our franchise owners across the country. So
Yep.
That's it. I mean, a lot of realtors probably that's a little refreshing to hear, because even Kyle and Piao were saying, like, man, those first years, and we still do it a lot, and it's we were talking about like burnout and
I
things
can't
like that.
imagine
It's
having
like
your phone on,
Right.
20 people
Yeah.
calling
they're
at
like
all
at
hours.
this point it's like they feel bad not picking up at 9
Right.
o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, because they know what
Right.
the result is, right?
No,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
I used to love it when I was a franchisee. I would go out and I'd do my listings through the week while my kids were in school, and I'd have everything uploaded and all of my customers set up, and they knew how to get in the back end and look at everything, and you've got everybody at home office, and the website is never shuts off, right?
Right,
So
right.
I was, sitting on my boat in the middle of the lake, and my real estate agent friends were sitting at an open house from 2 to 4 serving lemonade, hoping to God someone stopped by.
Yeah,
Trying to
yeah.
call at St. James Gate at 11 o'clock
Yeah.
at night. Right?
Yeah.
I'll get that offer in the morning, I promise. So because we have West Coast franchisees, that's why we have to have those hours
That's
there,
true.
because we got to make sure they're represented that way. So.
Right now, where'd you say is like the market that's really kind of blowing up?
It's the small rural towns, believe it or not, like
Okay.
Truro,
They're our best.
Nova
Yeah.
Scotia, the East Kootenays, Central Kootenays.
Yeah.
PropertyGuys.com is very similar to the home hardware, like kind of that local, smaller vibe.
It is.
And
Yeah,
you really excel in those markets.
Yeah.
Like we've got a downtown Toronto franchisee, and Pictou outperforms them 2-to-1 annually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's crazy.
Yeah.
The
Nova
word
Scotia.
spreads fast in the small communities, and our sign is round, it stands out,
Yeah,
it's
that's
different. People in rural communities talk to each other and share their wins and successes, and everybody knows everybody, and they're like, oh, I saw that round sign go up on your lawn, and then they're like, oh, I saved this much commission, and so the word spreads a lot faster.
That's true.
Yeah, and our franchisees, well, much like Home Hardware, like they really become a part of the community. Yeah.
Now, kind of looking bigger picture, having this disruptive model in just in real estate is super awesome. Do you think this is like this is more than just a disruptive element in real estate? Do you think like this is something that people should apply for a philosophy for any type of business?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think every model's prime for disruptive, right?
Yeah,
So no
yeah.
matter what industry you're in, there's all kinds of ways you can disrupt. And disrupt doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people think it's more of a negative stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it's just changing, looking at it differently, turning it upside down. Look at Apple.
Yeah.
Back in the day, very disruptive brand, but no one thinks of that as a negative brand, right?
No,
It's just
no.
kind of just the way they look at things and do things differently. So, guys, you definitely can apply to multiple industries.
Yeah.
Any business, I think, that's been around, whether it's new or old, there's all kinds of ways that disrupt
Well, you have to today with there's way less barrier to entry to get into business today than there was back when we started years ago, right? You can do anything today and research anything and have stuff at your fingertips for fraction of
Put it
the
on
cost.
chat.
Exactly. We've embraced that, and it's been awesome. Yeah.
Right. It would take us 2 or 3 hours to write a perfect property description for our first house that we put up. Now it's done in seconds with our with help from our friends at Chat. So
We no longer have to process our film. My iPhone can take a nice photo.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I'm thinking when you were saying like taking 4 days to do one listing, going to the Shoppers Drug Mart, getting your film developed, which is kind of returning a little bit. Like I've seen some people taking like Polaroids and going to do it because it's so nostalgic. Right?
Exactly.
Now, do you? This is kind of it's a question that I've asked for a few people, and I'd love to hear if you've got some takeaways or you remember it. But I always ask is like, what was your first job, and what do you think was like the takeaway that still today you think was a lesson that would like is still inspiring you, or you're like, we had some people like, and I relate to that one is like, my first job was in retail, and I think everybody should work in retail because you kind of see like the all human sides, and the rough parts and the selfishness, and people being nice, not nice, and whatnot, and it kind of like gets you kind of a little bit harder, right? So what were your first jobs?
I was a serial entrepreneur since the time I'm like 9 years old. I shoveled driveways when there were snowstorms, mowed lawns. I was a paper boy back in the day when they had these things called the newspaper. You could deliver to people. I did all those things. My first paying job, I was 14, and I used to work. This is how old I am. I used to work at the Irving gas bar at Champlain Mall there, the Irving. They had a gas bar there, and I would pump gas. So people would come out and I would fill up their cars, and I would do that for, I think it was $3.75 an hour at the time. So that was my first job. But the things I learned was basically nothing. I mean, no matter how smart you are, no matter what you know, nothing can outplace hard work. And I think just the value of putting in a good day's effort. I'm still a workaholic now. It's something that my dad taught me, that if you work hard, good things will come, and you can't outthink or outsmart hustle.
Right.
And if you're not doing it, someone else will. So that was kind of my early lessons on from those entrepreneur things. When I was in grade 2, I actually, this is a funny story. I don't know if Dane's ever heard this.
I can't wait.
What's your first real estate story? So in grade 2, I remember I was at East Dieppe School in Lakeburn. So that's where I grew up. And we had this cork board, and the teacher was saying we're going to do a yard sale, so you can put your whatever you want to put your stuff for sale. So if you want to put your baseball glove or your bike, and I'm like, I think grade 2, I'm probably 8 or 9. Like, I don't want to sell any of my stuff because this ain't cool. I'm going to put my house for sale.
Oh my God.
I swear to God. Yeah, so I put 12 Cop Street for sale. So anyways, I get home and the phone rings and my mom's on the phone. What? No. What are you talking about? No, I'll talk to him. All right, thanks, bye. So the principal called my mom to find out if we were moving because Kenny put the house for sale on the bulletin board of the school. So I guess I knew I was getting into real estate.
That's hilarious. What was yours, JD? It was probably collecting those election signs.
Well,
exactly.
That's a job.
PG was my legit first job. I've never been to a job interview in my life. But when I was a teenager, 13, I worked with my grandfather in the family business, and I was picking rocks off of a gravel road, and I've like, dude, like,
got to be something better than
this.
this.
I gotta go to school.
No, but okay. And I really looked up to my grandfather. He was very successful in business, and he invited me to work for him for a summer. So I said yes, of course. I was a young teenager, and there was lots of fishing around his area. So I said, yeah, as long as I can go fishing every day, I'll come work for you. But I was picking these rocks off this gravel road every day and throwing them off the road. And I'm like, why am I doing this? But similar to you, and I wasn't book smart. I wasn't the smartest kid in the class, but nothing replaces hard work and what you can accomplish in a day. So if you remember that for the rest of your life, that's why he wanted to teach me young. You make sure every rock on that road is, big rocks are picked off out of the gravel, but it didn't make a lot of sense at the time, and it was only years later that as we get into this, that nothing will replace hard work.
He was just teaching you work ethic, basically.
Darn right.
He didn't really care those rocks or other gravel or not.
I could have done anything. There was payloaders, bulldozers, excavators. I could have done all the cool stuff. Why does everyone else get the cool stuff? And I'm stuck picking rocks off the road. But that was to,
I love that.
Teach a lesson.
Dana, before you started modeling, what was that?
There you go.
For me, I've also always been a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
I grew up and my parents were entrepreneurial. They always started their own businesses.
Yeah.
I think it was in my blood.
Yeah.
Basically knew I was unemployable and knew that I had to do something myself. And I've done many different things through the years.
Yeah.
But I think, and a lot of it was retail or sales. Focused jobs. My big takeaway for that was if you can solve someone's problem, you will get the sale. And if you give someone else enough of what they want, you will always get what you need back in return.
I love that.
So yeah.
And I think, like, you know, putting all those things together is like, you know, you've kind of made that perfect recipe of doing it for the right reasons, and also being able to back it with putting that work ethic in place and really working for the end result, which is providing value to your customer, right? Which is really awesome. So it has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so happy that now I understand what Property Guys is all about. It's always best to hear it from the founders. For anyone that is watching this and is maybe contemplating that there are other options, I think this is something that definitely needs to be looked at. I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail from all the real estate agents after this.
It's all good. It's all good.
But it's great.
There's lots of love to go around.
It's great to see. It's great to see that there's other ways to do it, and there's enough for everyone to be able to to do it right. Is there anything exciting coming up next that are kind of new technologies or anything that's?
We just integrated some AI into our training, which is really cool. So we're starting with just our internal group of franchisees, and we have a little AI bot called Beat the Bot. So it's a home seller, and you have to convince them to list with Property Guys, and using AI, you can set different degrees in regards to difficulty. So 1, if you set it at 1, you just say hello and you get a listing. You set it at 10, you better be really darn good, or else you're not going to get a sale. They'll hang up on you. So just integrating some AI and technology with the ultimate plan of moving that into public facing. So users go in there, start asking questions, and be our best sales bot.
The Restyle tool as well. That's a cool
really
one.
Cool too. You guys would love that. So it's a new technology we launched last year. So basically, it allows our home visitors on our website to look at any listing we want and any photo that we put in there, and you can restyle. So basically, think of a home stager on steroids, and can change everything in that room from a different.
Or if the house you're looking at has ugly colored siding or whatever, and you can actually go in and then you can say like, oh, well, what would that look like with Cape Cod or barn board?
Turn it into a nautical theme, and then place furniture in there as well. So I want that couch in there, and I want to pick that. Then it's actually a lead source for companies like you guys.
It's a lead source for furniture stores. Like they might want that lamp.
Right. How do we plug this together?
We can make it happen.
We can talk.
Yeah.
What a pleasure. Thanks again.
Thank
you. We'll put it in the descriptions how to find Property Guys. I mean, obviously the signs are all around. I've seen many listings throughout social media and stuff like that. So it's exciting to see that you found success, and now to know that it's all started
with $100
here in Moncton too. So I really appreciate being here as well, because a lot of people don't realize that Property Guys was not only started in Moncton, but it still is in Moncton today, right? So pretty proud to be from this area. Grew up here. We'll die here more than likely, like most East Coasters do. So we're pretty happy about having
and here. I say many times, I think to make this city as big and as bright and as improved as we want it to be, we also have a responsibility in doing that. So people that have started businesses from the ground up and have lived here, like it'll only get better if we all participate.
I agree.
And you're 100% doing that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.